Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear this. This is the recording for the impasto painting in the style of impressionist style of Berthe Morisot, which is our January Artlit. We're going to do impasto painting. This is usually done with oil painting, but we don't want to use oil paints in school. It's just they take too long to dry and they're not washable. So what we've done is gone ahead and mixed acrylic paints with some joint compound to make it really thick. It also dries very fast. I will note that means that sometimes the lids get a little stuck. So for the adults, what you're going to need to make this project work is there's a color, one of each of these in different colors. You don't need much paint for these, so it's mixed together. That one's a little liquidy, and mix it back together. But you don't need much paint for these. So you'll just need a spoon, one of several spoons, dip it in and give each kid while they're doing their first drawing. I'll explain when. Go ahead and fill up people's little boats. They don't need much. This is like the size of maybe, a quarter. And then these green, white, and blue, typically a lot more because that's going to be background colors. And then the other colors, if they want them, just little dabs of each one because you'll see you don't need all that much. The kids, though, when they start out, don't give them the paints right away, or if you do, put them off to the side. They'll need just a piece of paper, a pencil, and then we can go ahead and give each kid a couple of these Q-tips and this brush, a brush or two. And the first thing, as always, and then when they have this ready to go, we can bring it to each kid. The first thing, as always, so this is all the stuff we need. So there's a note here for you to be guided, to reminded that you what each kid's going to need, and a little bit goes a long way. The first thing, though, is of course to put your name and the teacher on the back. So go ahead and have each kid do that. I'll also note, please don't substitute other paper. This is an 8x10 cardstock. It's really super thick, and it's the only way the impasto painting works. If you do the different piece of paper, it will melt right through the paper. Cool. So next step is you flip it over, so the name on the back, and flip it over. And then think about a composition that includes a full person. We saw in those paintings with Morisot, they're usually a whole person or like most of their body, not just a face. So we're not doing a portrait, we're doing a full body composition. Are they standing? Are they sitting? What are they wearing? Is it a flowy dress, a hat? Especially encourage maybe wearing white. Are they holding anything? Do they have something where they're off to the side? It can be a vertical or a horizontal portrait, doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll do this one horizontal for fun this time. So sketch in the outlines of the figure without using too much detail because the drawing is not the point. The point is the painting. So I'm going to go ahead and do something here where I draw a person. Maybe this time, here's her head. Maybe she's wearing a lovely hat. I'm going to have her sitting down somehow. And she has some arms and some hands, and her dress is kind of sitting around her like that. Cool. That's really all you need. Just kind of something enough to make you remember where your person's going to be. If she has hair, that's fine. Cool. Leave enough room for your background is a tip because there's going to be all of Morisot's pieces have a background. So this is the part where you sketch in that background. So when you had that in mind, the figure in mind, where she is, what she's doing, he or she is doing, now what? Maybe this person has a pond they're sitting next to in mind. So there's this pond and they're sitting on some grass. And maybe I'll then have some like big trees or something over here. And maybe there's a little bit of sky over here. That's probably all you need. Just enough to give you a reminder where you're going to put stuff. Don't draw too much detail. It's all going to get painted over. But think about what surrounds your figure. If you want to remember things, flowers, is there a sky? What's behind them? Here's your sketch. Okay, this is the big fun part. So by now, hopefully everyone has this paint. At the end, you'll just toss this, no big deal. But we do want to get these brushes back. You'll toss out the Q-tips and the paint, but we want to get the brushes back. But have each child go ahead and get big dots of paint. Our advice is that you use something really big and chunky to begin with to fill in the biggest amount of space the fastest. but using big fat brush strokes. And then the Q-tips are kind of for later. I tried doing one with just Q-tips and it just took forever. So that's where we're including the brushes after all. So the suggestion is, one thing you can do is you can start with, if you know you want your person to be in white, you can actually start with the white because that will remind you to not paint over that later. And it gives you a surface to kind of like paint around, and it'll dry as you go. So you can kind of do that. I'm just going to kind of do that really quickly. Um, they'll have wipes. We're not going to have, don't let kids get up and wash their brushes out. It just takes a really long time. Really, it's okay to mix things on the page. So just have them keep dipping in and maybe do the green next. I'm going to make my green brush strokes up because it's grass around her in my version. They might get a little bit of paint on their desks. If you wanted to put some paper down first, you could. An 8.5 by 11 would maybe work for that here. Or some construction paper. Maybe we'll put that on the cart. But the paint's washable, so it should come off after. Leave enough time for that. So the idea here is just big fat brush strokes. You can get a lot of paint. You can go gloppy and like do these kind of, you can kind of see big fat blobs. That's totally fine. It's gonna dry, believe it or not. It'll dry super fast. So anywhere you know you want green as a background, maybe just go ahead and put that in. You can always, it's very easy to paint over it later if you decide you want a brown tree trunk or you want some blue flowers or something. That's easy to do. And I suppose it looks like I'm already kind of running low on some of my greens, so it's possible you could maybe go around and add more for people. We just want the paint to last. Don't glob them up too much because then we'll run out of paint for everybody since we had to custom mix this paint product. Just didn't want it to be too spread out too thin. Okay, and then maybe what we'll do is just wipe off on a paper towel or a wipe, and you can do the next color. I'm gonna do sideways for my little lake that I'm putting on the side here. Different brush stroke. This kind of moves to the next one. Just keep painting. Just tell them to keep painting. Try different techniques. Up here in the sky, for instance, maybe I'll do more like some dabs rather than the brush strokes I've been doing. Make it look a little bit more flowy. It's okay to leave some white unfinished space. That's part of the look. And now at this point, you can also start trying to mix your colors. So if you want to do a little bit of like brown with your green to make maybe this look like a different kind of tree back here, play it back here, that works. You can start kind of layering in some yellow. Give the impression of grass. Yeah, just keep doing it. I'm moving through this pretty fast, but you can really, it's now this time to finish the figure, so you can pay more attention to the figure that you've drawn. This is where you might want to switch back to these brushes. So you can custom mix up kind of like a skin color if you want. And put that in. The kids will take a lot more time with this probably, which is perfectly fine. Different one, whoops. Maybe she has a hat. And if you don't want things to mix, just tell them wait for a minute because it will dry super duper fast. Okay, the other thing that's fun here is we put on the white, right? Well, remember that the white isn't always just white. So you can kind of mix in some blue and white together and make some shadows. Start adding in some of that. if you don't like something, you just paint right over it with more paint. Totally fine. Got a little blobby. We'll let that dry. Okay, so then you can take this and kind of add in some details. Oops. Make this white again. I kind of messed up. Hee hee. It's all part of it. Maybe she's holding some purple flowers, which means then maybe she needs some green. Cool. And you just switch back and forth. So you just keep going, right, until you have all the parts that you like. Maybe there's some white here in this blue lake. Maybe there's some green that blends into her skirt. And if you really have time, you can come in and fill in all the edges. That makes it pretty finished looking. But just encourage coming back and doing big blobs of paint. Remember all the slash and jabs and all of that. I'm going to do some shadows here. And one thing you can encourage them to do is maybe pick just one or two colors to focus on. Because if they do a lot of color, and every kid's going to want to do a lot of color because it's fun. But if there's one main color, like all blue or all green or kind of purple and green, it'll end up a little bit more cohesive. But maybe that's just something you encourage with the older classes. Yeah, that's about it. I'm kind of out of paint, which is kind of funny because I was like, conserve the paint. But yeah, you can kind of see there's like a figure here, and she's standing out because she's all in white. And I just add a little more texture. Probably a standing up figure. It's going to be a little bit better. That's the example. Yeah, you could really paint forever on these. So just use as much time as you have, and then remember at the end that we want to clean up. So please have everybody, yeah, there you go. Please have everybody kind of finish up their with their brushes. It should just wash out, but if you can collect all the brushes, maybe in an empty one of these plastic containers, that would help. And then just put all this together and toss it. Spoons, keep them if they're easy. If they're not, they can be tossed as well. That's it. Make sure every student racks these in the drying rack. We'll have one drying rack that's on wheels, and there might be another mounted to a cart. I'm still working that out. So we'll need some volunteers who come in early also to maybe clear the rack and put them with the teachers in the arts prep room. So that's it. Thank you so much. If you have feedback or ideas, please share it. Lots of tips for this one. It's a little messy, but really fun to see the pieces come out, and they get really big and chunky, and you'll see the examples on the card. Thank you, everybody. Bye.